Talk to me about what's happened.
Okay. I'm concerned about a particular issue where I work in the Royal Marines. I voiced that concern, and now I'm being treated like a terrorist and a criminal by our political establishment that is coming down on me and other people that are concerned about this issue like a ton of bricks. I made a survey about a particular issue that Marines are concerned about. That particular issue is that we believe that we have the high standards that we keep, and the high standards that we keep for a very important reason, which is to prevent Marines from being killed in dangerous situations when we go to war, and we've been told we will go to war very soon. We are concerned that those high standards are being dropped, and selectively dropped for political reasons, with the bespoke intention of forcing women through Royal Marines training for a political victory lap. Now, everyone talks about this. Everyone in the Royal Marines is concerned about this. Not because we wake up in the morning and want to say anything bad about the other gender, but because everybody knows implicitly in the Royal Marines, if you speak up about this issue, because of the political landscape and who's in political power at the minute, if you speak up about this issue, you will be silenced, as I have been silenced. Not only you'll be silenced, but your career will be threatened. Your livelihood will be threatened. Your friends and your family will be threatened. And I'm not one to bow down to bullying tactics like that. And it hurts me to see that this issue, which is a very important issue, which if we don't deal with this issue could result in you turning on the news in a few years' time and seeing that Marines or civilians or other people have been injured or killed because standards were lowered for political reasons. So because of that, and because I'm not someone that bows down to bullying, I made a survey stating our concern. That survey exploded in the Royal Marines. Within 24 hours, I can tell you nearly 1,000 people had signed that survey. Now, why do I say within 24 hours? Because within 24 hours, it was deleted. That survey was taken down within 24 hours. I suspect the reason it was taken down is because people in the chain of command asked the people who ran that survey site to take it down. I was optimistic, especially since I saw that so many people so quickly within the Royal Marines had gotten on top of this issue and voiced their concern about this issue. So I was optimistic to see that potentially maybe the chain of command will take, like, that's at least a third of the corps, or maybe a third of the corps within a day that have voiced a concern about this issue. I thought maybe they would actually take us seriously. Like, I suspected they wouldn't, but after the amount of people that signed it, I was cautiously optimistic that they might take this seriously and look into it. But within no time, fear-mongering starts being pushed out, saying that it was Russian misinformation, saying essentially what is now a meme, in saying it was Russian bots. Well, I can tell you it wasn't a Russian bot. It was me. And the people that signed it were not Russian bots. They were Marines. Because I've spoken to hundreds of Marines now who have said that they believe in it and that they signed it because it's something they're concerned about. And at that point, I began to suspect that all they're going to try and do with this issue is not address the problem. Because people are afraid. People are afraid of the political establishment up and down the chain of command. Everyone is acting in fear because we have a Soviet Union-style politically corrupt system that will crush people like me. If you're not seen bowing down to the gods of diversity, then you will be crushed. And everyone knows that implicitly. So what came of that? Well, after that, it was silent for a while. Some people in the press got a hold of it. I didn't speak to the people that posted about it individually, but I'm aware that it got to Caroline Farrow, and where it got to, I want to say, FastJet Performance. And those are allies on this issue. Those people were brave enough to say something about this on this issue. And are clearly people that have an understanding of the political landscape in this nation. But even then, on those on those posts that I know got hundreds of thousands of views, you could see that there was misinformation online coming from our people, coming from the people that should be taking this seriously, essentially saying that this isn't a concern, it's not an issue, it's just bullying, it's targeting an individual. There were particular people that we're saying these things, saying that we're targeting an individual, even though the petition and survey does not target an individual. And what the survey said, and we can link what the survey says, I suppose, but it's not only that we're concerned about this issue, but we're concerned that speaking out about this issue will result in blackmail and all these issues and all this political pressure and bullying. And that's exactly what you saw in response to these posts. People that should be taking this issue seriously, instead just bullying anyone into opposition, in their opposition, into silence. And after a couple of weeks, it sort of goes silent. But I knew after what had happened and how the way that they responded that what they were going to try and do is find the person that posted this survey, which was myself, as I've said before, and try and blackmail me and cajole me and dominate and silence me. And lo and behold, within a few weeks, there's some spook from the Ministry of Defence coming up to where I work, coming and giving a lecture to all our friends, talking about how brilliant he is and how hoofing he is, and you know how he's worked with this and how he's worked with that, and going through the survey and telling everyone in the room that they're wrong based on a data set of absolutely nothing, and saying that the person that posted this is a coward, etc. He's not only making these claims, but he's threatening people. He's threatening people's careers. He's threatening people and saying you need to say about this. Essentially saying it's going to be a criminal issue. Making all these outlandish, fanciful claims to try and bully people into submission. Nobody did. Nobody did listen to this bloke and all his blackmailing tactics, despite him coming there and treating our soldiers like they were criminals and making them feel like they would go to jail if they didn't listen to what he said and didn't give up the person that did this survey. Nobody did that. Because these are people with integrity that believe in what they said. These are people that aren't just willing to bow down to bully tactics. And this bloke comes in and sets an ultimatum. You've got 24 hours to tell us who did this. Otherwise, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to come in all guns blazing and I'm going to ruin your livelihoods and all that sort of stuff. So that transpires. And I don't respond to that. I don't respond well to threats. And I don't think it's right for somebody to come and treat patriots and members of our armed forces that are concerned about a very dangerous issue to treat them like criminals. I don't think that's right. I think that person is a coward and should be ashamed of himself. I think people like that are cowards and should be ashamed of themselves. And I think in 20 years' time, we'll look back on those people and we'll be asking questions in official settings as to why they thought it was appropriate to do these things. They're on a full witch hunt. These people are on a full witch hunt at this point, and they're going to try and find me. And it became very clear to me that they're going to try and get to me through getting to my friends and things. And I'd said to friends and things like, if they do threaten your livelihoods, then just give me up. I'm not concerned. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, if they're going to tell you that you're going to get fired for not telling them who did this survey, I'd rather it was on me. And I got to the point where I decided, you know what? I'm tired of my friends having to be concerned about this. This is bigger than me. I'm going to take this head on. It was a very stressful time, to be honest. Really stressful time. Because I'm trying to do my job, which I'm doing well, by the way, and I take pride in that. And I shouldn't have to be involved in these sorts of situations at all. But I went to my chain of command and I said to him, okay, there was a bloke that came in making all these threats and things, trying to find who did this survey. I was the one that did the survey. So if you're going to make threats towards anyone, make threats towards me. It then goes up the chain of command very quickly. Within 2 days, I'm being flown across the country to London, to the Ministry of Defence main building. And I'm being told that I'm going to go down there and I'm going to be essentially interrogated in the Ministry of Defence building. It's an intimidating place for somebody that's never been there. It's the highest level of chain of command that you can get to in the British Armed Forces. And they're doing this for a particular reason, because they're wanting to put on a show. They're wanting to get me down there, and they're wanting to threaten. They're wanting to make me know that they have all the power, they hold all the cards, and that they can do whatever they want. They can bring me to whatever location, do whatever they want to me. And that's fine. I'd rather it was me than other people. So we do that. We go down there, and I'm told that, yeah, I don't have the right to a lawyer. And I'm sitting there in this situation where I'm in a room with multiple men who are essentially interrogating me straight for 2 hours, treating me like a criminal, treating me like a criminal, and treating me like somebody who wasn't concerned about an issue, treating me like somebody who was just an issue to them, something to step over. And it became very clear to me very quickly that they said to me, you need to think about yourself in this instance. You need to think about your family in this instance. Now, what does that sound like to you? Because to me, that sounds like a threat. And they probably saw me thinking about that. And I repeated what they said, think about your family, and I wrote it down as well. Now, what am I supposed to take from threats from that? Like, is that you're going to throw me in jail? Is that you're going to attack me? Is that what are you going to do to me? Like, how do I know what power these people have? I don't trust these people. I can't even tell you what organization they work for specifically within the Ministry of Defense. Some alphabet soup name. But they tell me that they deal with security leaks. And they essentially try and make what is a genuine issue look like it was just some uppity Marines that are just being sexist, being evil, sort of sexist. And it's absurd, because we wrote that in the survey, that we were concerned that to be concerned about this issue, we'll be painted as sexists. And then that's exactly how they treated us, telling me that I should be concerned for my career, telling me that I should comply with them for the sake of myself and my family. This interview goes on. They ask all their warm-up questions. They tell me that they're going to ask me about other people, and that it's best to tell the truth in these situations. And they make it more or less clear that they already have access to all my personal data and information. I suspect these people can more or less just access all my personal devices and have ultimate control and access to all my information, based on the way that they're speaking, based on the way that they're talking to me. And the whole interview is attempting to paint me as some sort of person that I'm not. I'm not a person that's targeting an individual. I'm not a person that's rocking the boat unnecessarily. And I asked them explicitly. So thousands of Marines are concerned about this issue. I'm concerned about this issue. And I'm here representing these Marines right now. And that made me feel strong, to be honest, in that instance. Because I had the backing, I have the backing of the vast majority of the Marine Corps. And I said, are you looking into our concerns at all? Are you at all concerned about what has been raised here? They said, absolutely not. Absolutely not concerned about that. And we're here to talk about you. And what does that tell you? Is that these are people that are acting out of fear. These are people that are acting because they also fear the political establishment. Or maybe they are maybe they don't fear the political establishment. Maybe they actually believe in what they're doing. Maybe they actually believe that it's okay to drag a sovereign citizen of this nation, a Marine and a patriot, into a room and strip them of their rights and treat them like a criminal because they're concerned about a particular issue. To treat me like somebody who has done some vast wrong. But the conclusion of what they were trying to do there was paint me as someone who is just naive and doesn't know what they're talking about. I've raised an issue, and that issue, by raising an issue, you're helping Russia. And trying to make us look out like we're Russian bots. It's absurd. And then trying to make it look like we're targeting individuals when we're not. And telling us that by raising this incident and being concerned about this issue, that individuals who it could cause distress to individual females that are trying to pass out Royal Marines training. Telling me that this could cause stress to people that are trying to pass out Royal Marines training, while completely oblivious to the stress that it takes on an individual to be dragged down to the nation's to one of the most powerful buildings in the nation and treated like a criminal, and being told that other people will be stressful because of words that I said. Somehow I doubt very much that any individual females in Royal Marines training would ever incur treatment like this. The treatment that I'm having for being concerned about these issues. So where does it end? Well, they asked me about some political questions. And to put it this way, I'm a member of a political party. Now, I don't think it's their business or anyone's business to know what that is, but know that it isn't the main political party right now. It isn't the Labour Party. And my message to Conservatives, to people in Reform, or any of the other parties that are in opposition to our current government, is that you should be incredibly wary of these people and incredibly wary of the people that should be looking out for us and the people that should be protecting us are now using their powers to inflict political bullying on opponents of the current political establishment. And I asked them, they brought up politics, and I asked them, is that a problem? And they didn't look me in the eye at this point, which I thought was quite revealing. And they said, no, politics is your own thing. We wouldn't want to enter that world. And I knew for a fact that wasn't the case. I knew for a fact that they are just the people that don't deal with that. I knew for a fact that they've been told by some other organization that we'll deal with his political things. We'll deal with the fact that he's not willing to bow down to the power of the Labour Party. So that's where it left, the situation. And you know what? In that interview, they said that we're aware that could be an issue, because if somebody doesn't pass a test at this part in training, it could go on to hurt them at another part in training, because if they've not qualified to get from one stage to another stage, they're going to hurt themselves. And I got emotional at this point, and I get emotional talking about this because it's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. If somebody doesn't pass standards and are pushed through for political reasons, which is happening, I can tell you for a fact, because if it isn't happening, then you're telling me that every single Marine that I've spoken to is just a plain liar and is just making stuff up. And for a corps that bases a lot of its reputation on integrity, to tell me that the average Marine is just a liar is an absurd statement and a betrayal, quite frankly. And I got emotional. Okay, I am emotional because the stakes are higher. If someone passes out who doesn't meet the standard, that could end up with my friends being killed. And that's not something I'm willing to stand by and allow to happen. And to not blow the whistle on that problem makes me culpable. I refuse to look back in a few years' time and think I could have done something to stop this from happening. Okay. So what happens after that? So I knew after that they weren't done. Because to be honest, before I went down for that interview, I said to myself, I'm prepared to deal with multiple years of them screwing with me and messing with me because of this. And I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. It's in their interest to mess with me and screw with me and make it be known and make an example of people that stand out against the political establishment. Make it be known that you will be dragged through the dirt for multiple years. Even if they don't have anything on you, they'll make your life hell. And I knew that was what was going to happen. So I go on holiday. I come back from holiday. We're going through passport control. All is fine. And I can see there's 5 police officers. 2 of them are in suits. One of them a girl. She looks at me in the face, and I can tell that she's recognized me. And I knew exactly at that instance what was about to happen. And immediately, even though they've not checked anyone else's passports, they're checking my passport. And I'm thinking, okay, here's the next step in my political bullying for standing up against this issue. Because I've clearly upset somebody in a position of power. And I want that person in a position of power to know that you're not going to wipe me out by these cheap little political bullying tactics. But it annoys me. Of course it annoys me. So well done. You've annoyed me. But annoying me and threatening my career is not going to stop me from standing up against an issue that is important to me and important to the Marines that I work with and the civilians we're trying to take care of. So I'm huffing. I'm not, I'm very polite to these people, and perhaps I shouldn't be. Perhaps I really shouldn't be polite. I think I should be less polite and cordial to these people, but I'll go over that in a second. But he says to me, "Oh, are you fed up? Are you pissed off?" I was like, "Well, I'm not pissed off. I'm a bit tired of this. I will continue to get tired of it, but I will keep going." There is no amount of political bullying that you can land on my desk that will stop me from being concerned about this issue or any other issue. So they dragged me into this room. This is a different instance. So I'm now being dragged in by Police Scotland. I ask them, am I being detained? They say, no, you're not being detained, but we're holding you here under the Terrorism Act. I'm just shaking my head at this instance. And I said, have I committed any acts of terrorism? Am I expected to commit any acts of terrorism? And they said, no. We have you here because you have views. And that was I don't even know if they meant to say that, because that's the truth. I think they're supposed to maybe not say the truth in that instance. But that's what they've clearly been asked to investigate, is my political views, which are none of their business. And as soon as they say that, I just say thought crime. And they're like, what? I'm like, this is thought crime. You're the thought police. This is thought crime. And they're saying, well, there's no illegal, it's not illegal to think things. And I just, well, it clearly is, because I'm here in a room and I'm being treated like a criminal and my rights are being taken away from me because I have opposing political views to the political establishment. They take my phone. And under the Schedule 7 Terrorism Act that they were holding me under, as part of a bullying tactic to try and silence me for standing up for a political issue that isn't even a political issue, it's just a concern, they've taken my phone. I don't have my phone with me. Not only do I not have my phone, they took my phone and they said, you have to give us the code to this phone. So I had to give them the code to the phone. I said, legally, I have to give you the code to this phone. Yes. And we're going to ask you questions and you legally have to answer them. I said, I don't have the right to silence. You do not have the right to silence. And they're like, so we're here because of your views. And I make a point of saying to them, are you okay with doing this? You're okay with doing this. You're here to ask me not about something I've done or something I'm going to do, but about my thoughts. You're the police, and you're here policing my thoughts. And they said, we don't make the legislation. And these are cowardly people. These are cowardly. If they're not cowardly, they're ignorant. And I don't think either is acceptable in this day and age, because there's enough out there. They continue asking me these questions, and it gets to, so what would you consider yourself politically? I answer what I consider myself to be politically, which is besides the point, because what I consider myself to be politically doesn't involve anything that would come even remotely under the Terrorism Act. So I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of having to speak about my private political beliefs, because they've got no right to it and neither does the public. But in this particular interview, I have to tell them, so I do tell them. But yeah, I answer their questions. I'm truthful. I was truthful in both of these interrogation situations. But yeah, they've confiscated my personal property. They ask me more of these questions, then after a while they tell me I'm being detained. And I do have a right to a lawyer, but this is like 9 o'clock in the evening. They're making it clear they want to get out of there. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, they've surprised me with this instance. So I was like, oh, I would definitely like a lawyer, because this is absurd. You've already told me I'm not allowed a lawyer. Now I am. They said, oh, we can get you a lawyer, but we'd have to wait. And they're like, oh, basically implying we can't be arsed. And I'm in an instance where it's like, you've surprised me with this. And you've shocked my wife. And my wife's in a state of shock, and she's, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know where I am. She doesn't know what you're doing. And they're frightening my family because of this. Because they're frightening and bullying me, and it's now having effects on my family, which is why I'm here speaking about this today, because I don't think that should happen to my family members. I don't think it should happen to me, but I'm here because I think this probably happens on a daily basis to people like me around this country who are dragged into rooms and treated like this, because these people think they have unlimited power and they think they have the right to do this sort of thing. So we finish up the interview. I get going. I've already told my wife to go home, so I try and get a taxi. No taxis. Call her from one of the landlines. Just explain to her everything's okay. Just put down the phone. And the bloke who had been listening, I'd explained the whole thing on the phone, and the bloke who'd been listening, was probably thinking like, oh, why is this bloke being held? And I was like, here, mate, you know when you hear about people getting arrested for tweets, which is the state of the nation that we live in, and so common of an occurrence that this person was like, yeah, like, and he was already like, you know what I mean, like clearly very receptive to what I was about to say. I was like, that's what's just happened to me. I was just dragged into an interrogation room, had my personal property taken from me, and my personal thoughts extracted from my head through coercion of law and physical violence, and the threat of physical violence. Not because of thoughts that I had, because clearly I've wronged someone in high up political places. And he was just like, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And that's what the people of this nation believe. This is ridiculous. And so I go home, get my things, and think about it for a couple of days, and come to the conclusion that the biggest card, or the highest card that these people have, is the fact that I have no public backing. They can just treat me however they want, because they know that I don't have any legal backing, I don't have any media backing, I don't have anybody in a position of power. I am the smallest, minute individual to them. I'm in the military, they can do what they want to me as far as they're concerned. And that's what's happening to me right now. And I just know that it's going to continue like that until I stand up for myself and I stand up for the lads. And I stand up for the people that are concerned about this, because it's not just lads, it's everyone that's concerned about this issue. Not everyone, but the vast majority of people are concerned about this issue. And then furthermore, even people that aren't concerned about this issue don't think I should be treated like this for being concerned about this issue. So that drags us up to where we are now, and to this video, and to this interview, and to the Royal Marines that are watching this and are thinking to themselves, this is ridiculous. Like, how can one of us be treated like that, be treated like this? Pull your finger out. If this can happen to me, this can happen to you, and it can happen to your friends. It can happen to the next Marine that's passing through right now, and it can happen to anyone. It can happen to civilians that are concerned about this. And if you think, oh, I don't want to talk about this because of my career, I ask you, what's more important, your career or principles? And in a few years' time, if you don't stand up for this, if this is allowed to continue, and something dangerous or fatal happens, I ask you now to make a decision to be on the right side of this issue, to fight against that and stop that from happening, so that in a few years' time you don't turn the news on and see that one of your mates has been killed because politicians wanted to achieve a particular diversity quota within the Royal Marines for political reasons, to do a victory lap, post it on the BBC like they posted that BBC video the other week, doing a pre-victory lap, astroturfing, making it clear that they're gonna make this happen. They're gonna make female Royal Marines no matter the cost. We're not against the female Royal Marine necessarily. I'm not going to speak for everyone. But if you are going to make female Marines, they have to be made correctly. And they have to be meeting the same standards that everyone else is meeting. And to do that, we need to have a situation where people feel like they can say, I don't think that this person's being given a fair shot. I feel like this is nepotism, and I feel like they're being pushed forward. So to the Marines that are concerned about this, go into work, and the next day you're at work, and stand up for this issue, and pull up your chain of command on this issue and say you don't think it's right for Marines to be treated like this. And for you to feel like you have to lie on this issue, and you have to keep your opinion silent. Tell them that you believe that. And for the people high up in the chain of command, I ask you to make an environment where people feel like they can speak about these sorts of things, because they don't. And that's not my fault. It's your fault. I have a responsibility to speak about that issue, and that's what I've done. You have a responsibility to take on what I have told you and act upon it responsibly. And I shouldn't have to remind you of that. And you shouldn't stand by while politicians and top brass try and silence people like me. Because you're in a position of power, and you're supposed to be championing the lads, not undermining them. To the people in the media, stand behind us. This is an important issue. Some things are bigger than, this may not be politically correct. Some things are bigger than that. And to the politicians and the people that are inflicting this witch hunt on people like myself, which I'm sure happens every single day. I won't be even remotely unique in this instance. This will be happening every day in this police state that we're living in. I ask you to question yourself on whether you think your actions are really appropriate, whether you think that you're serving your people correctly. Because you have a duty to this nation to the people of this nation to protect us. And when you feel that you're being used as a political tool to silence political opposition, question yourself and say, in 20 years' time, when the political establishment has completely changed, do I want to be the one sitting on the other end of the table, answering questions as to why I thought it was appropriate to interrogate and go on a witch hunt of sovereign citizens of this nation for being concerned about legitimate issues? But if you're seeing this now and you're in the media, or you're a politician, or you're in the Royal Marines, please take this issue and run with it and champion the lads. You can either be a useful tool or be a hero. You can either be a contributor or a detractor. So individuals that I would ask, I know that J.D. Vance talked about this. J.D. Vance talked about exactly this issue at the NATO summit, I want to say, or maybe it was a European summit. J.D. Vance said that the enemies within are doing us more harm than the enemies without, or words to that effect. That has been very clear to me in the last few weeks. And as one Marine to another, I asked people like J.D. Vance to stand up for this issue. And the way he stood up for Marines in the US, our friends in the US Marine Corps, to stand up for the Royal Marines here on the other side of the pond, particularly to individuals like Tucker Carlson who are willing to stand up against these issues. Champions of free speech, Elon Musk, Asmongold. If you're somebody that says that you champion our people and you champion the rights of our people to speak up against this progressive nonsense that's destroying and rotting the nation and causing people like me and my family and my friends to be treated like criminals, if you are one of those people, whether it's Elon, Tucker, J.D. Vance, or any of those sorts of people, get in touch. Speak about this. Tweet about it. Make it an issue, because it is an issue. Make it an issue now, before it becomes a death, before it becomes a tragedy. Yeah, I'm happy with that.